the conversation last week?
We talked about the saying, thank you for noticing, and just
Yep.
our value
Yep.
on the services we provide.
Okay. Really being more cognizant of being aware of when people say thank you to you and recognizing your efforts, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. How did it go this week? I mean, you guys obviously have been dealing with a variety of different conversations. I know you guys talk to people every day, whether it's inside of the office that you work at or with your friends or even with your clients. How has that, did what we talked about last week have any bearing or impact on how your conversations went this past week?
Yes,
No?
it did. Well, no. I think I'm more aware now of the things
Okay.
that, I even do.
Okay.
And things that I wasn't even aware of, like I just thought, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is my job. But now it's like,
Right.
well, this is something I want to do, and it's not just a job for me.
Right.
And I enjoy everyone's conversation.
Yeah, I think
What about you, Michael?
a little bit, and then I think I went back to my natural ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I guess
that's where this process is so that's where a lot of us reach the fork in the road is it's so much easier to fall back into the old ways, and it's because it's more comfortable, it's more natural, it's something that we just have always done. It's a lot more difficult to go down this path and to stick with it. And I will tell you that it's one of these things that if you commit to doing it for a month, you will find that it is not only easy, but it is a lot more rewarding, because you begin to pay a lot more attention to what your audience, whether it's personal, whether it's intimate, whether it's business, you pay a lot more attention to the actions that you actually display to them and what works for them. Because when you start paying attention to what they're grateful for, you become more aware of how you interact with them better. That's on a whole nother level than what I want to get into. But the point in the message is this. When you're aware of the things that you do that make your clients happy and they acknowledge you for it, those are what I call referable moments. And I want to be clear on that. The whole premise of my business model was I didn't believe that I was going to rely on realtors to be my financial security blanket. I don't believe, as a general rule, that most realtors are capable of providing their own financial safety net, let alone for me to rely on them. And that's why there are that, there's that 95-5 rule. Like 95% of the realtors in the business do 5% of the volume, and 5% of the realtors in the business do 95% of the volume. There are the elite, really, really good ones, and then there's everybody else. I remember when I was interviewing realtor operations, I would always go in there and ask them who are their top agents in their volume, and I was amazed at how Keller Williams, as an example, may house 300 licenses, but there's really only 4 or 5 agents in the whole office that really produce the most, the most volume. And I'm sure it's probably very similar in your market. But here's some numbers for you guys to kind of chew on as to why this is so valuable. So did we talk about the 80-20 rule with regards to who are your raving fans and who are your introverts and who are the friends that you basically lean on for your business? Did we talk about that at all?
I believe we did, yes.
Okay. So when we begin to understand that 80% of our audience will generally refer us and help us as long as we set the stage appropriately, we have to begin to realize that if we're not making our actions very definable, we're really just kind of going into this accidentally. Like, we go through the loan process and we hope that people will refer us. We hope that people will think about us out in the out in the world. But the truth is that 20% of them will, 20% of them won't regardless. But the other 60% that I label as your friends under that model, they're not going to help you unless you ask. And they will gladly help you if you do ask. And the truth is that there are good times, there are right times and not right times to ask people for help. And you have to be careful because I'll give you a case in point. So there's a local bank around here that's open 7 days a week, and I joined that bank for the simple reason that they were open 7 days a week. I had a valet company, and I had rental properties, and I always had cash that I would like to deposit, and so the fact that the bank was open, 7 days a week was really convenient for me. But every time I came into the branch, I was always asked if I would refer a friend to them. They would give me $25 if they opened up an account. Well, on the surface, that seems pretty decent, $25 for just referring a friend. But after a period of time, I began to realize that I'd heard that message 15, 20, 50 times, and yet I'd never referred anybody, irregardless of the dollar amount that they asked me for, that they said that they would reward me to refer. Why do you think that is? Why do you think I was unlikely to refer somebody to the branch? They did a good job for me. They provided me with the service that I wanted. Why do you think I was unwilling to refer them to people in my life?
Just probably just because of the consistency of them. Well, just asking so many times that it just becomes void. Like you don't really pay attention to it anymore.
Right. I agree to that. But even the first couple times when they offered me money, I didn't even think about it after I left the branch. And I began to really look at that as it relates to my business and how my business unfolded. And I began to realize that I didn't join the bank because they were providing me a great level of service and that people were really caring and they didn't tell me that by joining that I would have to refer them to my friends and my family. And so after a period of time, I began to feel like it was more of a sales tactic. I didn't feel like it was genuine because the people that were asking never really engaged with me. They never really validated my relationship with them. They just did what they needed to and then asked me for a referral. The truth is that I didn't join the bank to build relationships with them or to build a referral business with them. I joined the bank because they were open up 7 days a week. Now, I'm capable of referring. I'm built a business on it, so I'm probably better apt to refer them than anybody, but I never did. And it really boiled down to I didn't join the branch with the belief that that was one of the agreements that I had going into it, meaning nobody sat down with me and said, once you become part of our bank, we're going to ask you from time to time to help us with our business. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to provide you the highest level of service 7 days a week. But the only way we're able to do that is by the understanding that when you join our facility, we want you to be out there telling other people about us. Now, when I compare that to my business, I began to understand that setting the stage is so vitally important when you first meet your clients. This kind of goes back to how we are viewed by our clients. Most loan officer experiences by the people you talk to, the audience, whether it's realtors or your business networks or even your clients, have a perception of what an LO means and what an LO is. And to be honest, it's probably not favorable. Are we in agreement there?
Correct.
Generally speaking, most loan officers are not recognized as being very professional, very communicative, and very on top of their game. Fair? So when we present ourselves to an audience, we have a very short period of time to be able to really change their viewpoint of us or to frame ourselves in the light that we want. And the reason the exercise about recognizing the thank yous and all that stuff has more to do with building the confidence to know that we do provide value at a very high level and we do it consistently, so it isn't or shouldn't be very uncomfortable for us to come in and go, I know that I do this, I'm very good at what I do, but by me doing all these things, it comes at a price as it relates to I spend a lot of time servicing my clients to provide them the highest layer of value. But in order to do that, I have to have my audience out there advocating me to the people that they care about, because I don't have the time to provide the highest level of value here and still have time to go out there and originate business by trying to sell myself to people who don't know me, like me, and trust me. So the balance in that is I would love for you to be a part of my business. I would love to work with you as a partner. I would love to work with you as the loan officer to help you buy a home. But in order for me to do that, and provide you with what you need to help you through this process or to help you build your business, I need your commitment to advocate me to the people you care about if we've earned it. And it goes back to setting the stage. I believe in my heart that when you set the stage and you come to an agreement, the entire relationship starts off on the right foot. And we do agreements in our relationships all the time. Let's just use our current business scenario. Michael, have you closed a loan yet?
I have not.
Okay. And Olivia, I know you've closed a couple, haven't you?
I actually have my first one next week.
Oh, cool. Super excited.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
that's so cool. So you've made an agreement with your client. You promised them that you would be available. You promised them that you would deliver on the rate and the fees and the timeline that they've outlined for you, and you've agreed to all those terms, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What has the client agreed to?
As far as doing business
What?
with me?
Yep. What does the client agree to? Nothing.
I guess no, nuh-uh.
So the relationship that you have now with your client is that you are an order taker, you are a promise maker, you are a promise keeper, and the client has all the power in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have what's called a tit for a tat,
Mm-hmm.
one level relationship with a consumer, which means that no matter what you do, you have set the agreement in the beginning that you will do all of these agreements and can make all these commitments so that you get paid on the loan, and that in your mind they will be happy.
Correct.
The truth is that that is only half of the relationship that can be established with your audience. And when I say audience, I refer to your business relationships, your CPAs, attorneys, financial planners, realtors, and your clients.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to get across is when you meet a new relationship for the first time, part of the framing that I'm referring to is not only telling them why you do what you do, because you guys understand your value more than you did before, but it also comes into the fact that if you're able to deliver on everything that you're going to do, which if we're really honest with ourselves, if this closing that you have next week, Olivia, has gone pretty smoothly, have you had any major issues or bumps?
There has been. This is probably a difficult one, but the next one coming up is a little bit smoother.
No, I want to talk about the difficult one, because the reality is, guys, every loan that we have is destined for failure if we aren't on top of our game. I'm not saying it's not going to be rough. I'm just saying that every loan that we take on is destined to failure if we're not on top of our game. And by on top of our game, it doesn't mean flawless. It just means that we're doing the things that we're basically being paid to do, right? Manage fears and expectations, consult with our clients, and really negotiate between the conditions and the underwriter and the client, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So when you look at the difficulty of the loan, and you look at the effort that you've put into it, is there anything that you could have done differently to make this loan go smoother? You personally.
Me personally?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I felt like me and the loan partner, I think we did everything right.
Okay, good.
In my eyes.
Okay, but here's the eye opener that I want you to see. The client, when they sit down with you, doesn't know what they don't know. Meaning they come into this believing that you are only judged based on your rate and your fees and your experience. That's it. They don't realize that there are literally 100 things that could go wrong during the process. And though the process may be difficult, and though there may be some turbulence throughout the way, very rarely does a plane crash on the Smith team.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Very rarely does a loan ever get declined because the loan officer and the loan partner and the branch and the company don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
The truth in the matter is that you do a really good job of eliminating 99% of the issues that happen on a loan transaction, and we are minimizing our efforts every day by not making that a focal point of why they want to work with us. And why that's important right now is because if we're not setting the stage for what we want out of our client relationships or our audience relationships, we're not really taking full inventory of the work that we put into the loans. So to say that in a different way would be, we're doing our job as a loan officer every single day, and we expect to get paid on that by just being a loan officer. But the truth is that if you only remain as a loan officer, meaning you do the tactical work of a loan, and you never focus on how you can build your business by being a loan officer, you will miss out on almost 60% of the opportunities that run across your plate every single day. So if I told you that I could help increase your business by 60% by doing the stuff you're already doing, but just by making you more aware of what's out there, would that seem like it's a pretty valid reason to kind of try to implement some things?
Oh, yes, most definitely. 60% is a big number.
60% business is what you're missing. So of the 2 closings that you're going through right now, Olivia, you missed out on one new loan that could close and bring financial, it could bring money into your family because you're not setting the stage in the beginning. So let me give you guys a quick little story on the real world application of this. So my wife Denise took over my mortgage practice this past year. I turned my database over to a good friend of mine named Alan Garbasic, and she took over my referrals of my database just this past year. So I've got 2 LOs that are in the company right now that are both both received awards this past year for being in the Platinum Club or the top 10 because of the volume that they've done, because they've followed my instruction and just took my database and my referrals and ran with it. So I know it works. The scenario that unfolded about 4 months ago was I got a referral from a client of mine, a long-standing client of mine. I've done business with him, his family, his friends, his colleagues for a number of years. So he calls me up and refers me a client of his or a coworker of his, and I call up my wife because I'm not licensed anymore. I said, Denise, I have a referral for you, but I want to try something as an experiment. And she's like, okay. So I go in and I do the initial presentation with the client. So Peter comes in, him and his wife, I sit down with them and I spend 15 minutes with them, what I call setting the stage. I talk about the permission to reject. I talk about the triangle of trust. I talk about setting expectations and how they're going to hate me through the process. And then I come to the agreement part of my presentation. And so we'll get into that at a later date. But I properly set the stage about the agreement that I want with my clients. And if they're going to work with me, these are the things that I need in return. Like, I need them to be responsive. I need them to deliver the paperwork on time. I need them to pay close attention to the requests that we make. But I also expect them to become advocates of our business. I expect them to talk to and tell other people about us through the process, because that's how our business grows. So I set the stage, and I kind of go over the top with it just to drive home the point to Denise, because she doesn't do it consistently. She actually probably doesn't do it at all, just because she's just kind of all over the map sometimes. So I said, so I'm going to set the stage, and I left, and I let her do the loan officer part of the application. I did the originator side of the application, and I let her do the loan officer side. So an hour later, she comes back into my office. She sits down, and she looks at me from across the desk and goes, I got to be honest with you. I felt really uncomfortable with that meeting. I said, why? She goes, because you were so over the top with your dialogue. I'm like, okay, well, that's your opinion. The client probably doesn't think so, because they don't know what they don't know. They've never had that presented to them. So I said, just do me a favor as you go through the process. Just please, every time you talk to the client and they say thank you, please just tell them thank you, and please remember, don't keep me a secret. You guys know that, right? We've talked about that?
Yeah.
So I said to her, so 45 days goes by. They close on their house. She goes to the closing. They hand her a referral for his counterpart at his office who's buying a $450,000 house. She comes to me and she goes, I got a referral. I go, this is perfect. I said, let's talk about this. I said, let's talk about why you got the referral. I said, do you think you got the referral just because I set the expectations up in the beginning? She goes, no, but I think that had probably something to do with it. Okay, that's fair. I said, do you think you got a referral because you did a really, really good job in the loan? She goes, I think that's part of it too. So it begs the question that doing both of them led to a referral. She's like, absolutely. I said, now let's play devil's advocate. If I had not set the expectation and you did a really good job as a loan officer, do you think you would have gotten a referral? She goes, well, based on my other loans, because I do it because she's a really good loan officer, she goes, probably not. I go, that's interesting. I said, if I had set the expectation and you did a horrible job as a loan officer, you would have think we gotten a referral. And she goes, not even close. I said, so if I didn't set the stage and you did a really good job as a loan officer, your batting average is about 20%. She gets about 20% of her past clients referring her just because that's who she is. But 80% of the people don't refer her because she doesn't really set the stage or ask. So I turned it into a very statistical analysis, and I said, there's a 60% increase in your business being referred to you if you set the stage appropriately, and there's about a 40% chance that if you set the stage appropriately and you do a really good job, you've increased the opportunity of getting a referral by almost 100%. The message to me was really simple that she finally understood, is that you guys can be exceptional loan officers every single day, and I'm sure both of you guys are trained exceptionally well, and like you said, Olivia, you did the best that you could and there wasn't really much else you could do. But I believe that the 2 loans that you're closing would have referred you up to this point, irrespective of whether or not the loan went smoothly or not, because you set the stage appropriately in the beginning. But as it stands right now, the agreement that you had with each of these clients was, I will get your loan closed, and that's how I get paid. That's my job. It was my pleasure. I'm glad to help. I'm hoping at some point you guys will think about me. And that's what you say in your head, but you minimize your efforts because in your mind, this is your job. The truth is that your job as a loan officer is exactly that. But if you're thinking about your business as an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to capitalize on those situations or relish the fact that you're going to have to go out there and cold call on new realtors and new business relationships every single day if you're not clear on how you can originate 60% more of your business just by talking and setting the stage appropriately with your current clients.
That is definitely an eye-opener.
So what I'm getting back to is, I told you guys before, 63% of my business, most of my business for most of the years I did loans was past client and current client referrals. Because here's what it comes to. When you set the stage in the beginning and you actually manage those referable moments through the process by paying attention to when your clients say thank you, you begin to act every day as a seeker of referable opportunities, meaning when you set the stage in the beginning, people know that that's why they're working with you, that not only are you going to deliver on what you promise, but by doing what you promise, you're going to expect your clients to refer you and advocate you to the people they care about. That's awesome because as you go through the loan process, Olivia and Mike, you're going to have conversations with your clients because you're going to pick up the phone and go, this seems like I could call them and I'm going to get a thank you by calling them and telling them that their home got appraised for more than what they bought it for. That's going to be a referable opportunity because the clients will be like, oh my God, I'm so happy, blah, blah, thank you so much. And your response now, because you're cognizant of it, is, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, thanks for noticing. I told you guys in the beginning that our business is 100% driven by my relationships and your willingness to advocate me to the people you care about. Please don't keep us a secret. The fact that you're able to set the stage in the beginning paves the way for you guys to have those simple conversations every single day that you're talking to your clients. And because you're having the conversations anyway, as a loan officer, you can quickly turn them into originating moments through the orchestration of referable moments, because now you're planting seeds every time. See, it doesn't become foreign or it doesn't become lost in translation if that's what they agreed to in the beginning before they agreed to move forward with the loan process with you. But we only focus on the tit-for-tat side of the business and not the opportunity cost of every person that we deal with every day. Imagine if you had 5 to 10 people in your pipeline. that means that you're possibly getting anywhere from 3 to 6 referrals just from doing your job and talking to people and paying attention to when they say thank you to you, because you set the stage in the beginning and you've managed their fears through the process, and you leverage those relationships, because when people are asked when you ask people for help and you do a really good job for them, what's the first thing that they're going to want to do?
Help you in return.
Oh my gosh, it's not that complicated.
Yeah. No.
And we do it, and we do it accidentally in our lives every single day. We've been the recipient of it. We've had value given to us, and our first response is, how do I repay them? How do I say thank you? How do I help them? We've had it happen accidentally, but what I'm trying to teach you guys is how you can do it with a premeditated mindset. And the whole exercise of paying attention when people say thank you to you is that I want you guys to start really listening to your conversations and understand that when you know that what you're about to do is going to lead to an appreciative statement, you've now orchestrated a referable moment. But it's only a referable moment when the relationship was agreed to based on the premise that you will be asking through the process.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Michael, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, that makes sense.
What do you hear me say, Mike, when I talk about this? Like, how do you interpret it in your own words?
Oh man, my own words.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I feel like, sorry.
No,
I feel like setting the stage is just the number one thing to do at the very beginning. And then after that, I feel like it'd be easier, and it'd get easier for us to, say.
Yes. 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 100%.
And just getting those referrals are going to be.
Let me give you an example.
I'm mind blown by the 60% and how just setting the stage like that and then doing it throughout the process is crazy to me. It's good in a good way, but I don't know.
Let me just, I'm gonna give you guys, and we'll dissect it at a later date. But let me give you what my presentation was with my clients when I first met with them. So I'll act as if you two are a couple and you guys are my clients, and I'm trying to get you guys to come in and meet with me. Mm-hmm. So the dialogue would go very similar to this. So Olivia, Mike, hey, it's an absolute pleasure to get you both on the phone today. Thanks for taking the time. I know you guys are extremely busy, so I want to make this as impactful and as meaningful for you guys as possible in the shortest amount of time. So Scott Hudson, or Richard Smith had referred you guys to me, and I think Richard he's like one of my most favorite people. I think he's just a really, really good person. So I'm curious to know, you guys obviously got on the subject of me somehow with Richard. What was it about what he said about me that made you guys want to talk to me? Was there something specific that he said?
That he just recommended you and that you do a really good job.
Awesome. Did he say, like, what was it about me doing a really good job? Was there something specific? Or did you guys trust him that much that you're like, if he did a good job for you, Richard, then we're going to go into it and we're going to give him a shot too?
We trust him.
Awesome. And that's huge. You know what? That is so important in this business and in any business, that when you trust people, and really that's kind of funny that you say that, because my business model is built around a theme called the triangle of trust. And the triangle of trust to me, and it's on my business card, and I would show you guys, or I'd pull it up on my computer screen. The idea of the triangle of trust is really simple. So it takes a lot to get somebody to endorse you, right? It takes a lot for somebody to put their reputation on somebody else. Right? It's a really kind of a special thing. And so Richard and mine's relationship has gotten to the point where he feels comfortable referring me out to the people he cares about. And I got to be honest with you, I don't take that lightly. And the reason I don't take that lightly, guys, is because my entire business model is predicated on people like Richard referring me to the people they care about. And so by me having a relationship with Richard and you guys having a relationship with Richard, I now have a very, very, very large responsibility put in front of me. And so as we spend some time together trying to understand your wants, your goals, and your needs, my number one concern through this process is going to be for you guys to go back to Richard and say thank you. Irrespective if we choose to work together or not, my number one concern is that you're going to go back to Richard and thank you, and here's why. Because if I do right by you two, then that means you're going to go back to Richard and you're going to be thankful for him for putting you in touch with me. And by that happening and you going back to Richard and saying thank you, it actually amplifies my relationship with Richard. So can you guys kind of see that triangle? Kind of an important thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now imagine if I failed at trying to deliver if I failed to deliver on meeting your goals, needs, and expectations. If I wasn't able to give you the advice and the counsel that you were needing, irrespective of if you guys use me or not, if I'm not able to help educate you or point you in the right direction, and I mislead you in some way, shape, or form, what do you think that does for me?
It looks bad on you.
Well, it destroys my relationship with you guys, obviously. It puts a strain on the relationship between you and Richard, and it absolutely dissolves my relationship with Richard because I've now broken his trust in me by breaking your trust in me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to be very clear about something. I'm very particular about the people I work with for a variety of different reasons, but the biggest one is that I have to make sure that if I take on a client, that I'm going to be able to deliver the needs and the wants and the goals that you have and deliver on what I promise for that reason. So as we go through this process, I want you to realize that as much as you're interviewing me to decide if I'm the right loan officer or the originator to help you buy your home, I'm also interviewing you guys to decide if you're the right client for me to take on in my business. Because it makes no sense for me to take you into a loan process and not be able to deliver on what I promise, for the simple fact that the triangle of trust becomes a huge debacle, and my business is simply formulated, built around delivering that model every single time consistently. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as we go through this, I just want you guys to be okay with it. I'm okay with you guys at the end of this saying you're not the right person. I'm okay with it, but I want you guys to also understand that I may say to you guys, I'm not going to be the best loan officer to help you guys through the loan process. So are we okay? Is that an agreement that we can both have?
Yeah.
Awesome. So one of the things about this business that's really, really tough is that people don't really communicate very well about what it is that goes on behind the scenes. I can promise you guys this. There are literally 100 things that could go wrong, and we do a really good job of managing 99% of them, but there's going to be a point in time when you guys hate me. It's inevitable. There's going to be a point in time when I pick up the phone and you guys are going to be like, are you serious, Doug? This is so irritating. I can't stand doing this anymore. I totally get it. I've been there. I've done this 100 times, but please understand that it's not done personally. It's done because the industry that we're in right now is all about forensic underwriting, black lights and tweezers through your financial life. And as much as we can try to navigate through 99% of them, sometimes things come up from the seller, from the buyer, from the listing agent, from the selling agent, from the title company, from the appraiser, from the home inspector, from the termite inspector, from the city. There are so many things that could go wrong. I just want you to be aware that this list that I'm going to give you is the list of some of the things that could go wrong that we do a really good job of trying to manage and oversee. But again, this goes back to why the triangle of trust is so important. See, I want you guys to know that at some point, we're going to have to go back to this list because I want you guys to understand that your happiness and your willingness to work with me is predicated on the understanding that, A, you're going to go back to Richard and say thank you, but more importantly, I want you guys to become like a Richard. I want you guys to be an advocate of my business. So if you go back to Richard and say thank you and we agree to work together, my hope is that through this process, you won't keep us a secret, that you'll tell people about us and you'll advocate us to the people you care about. And that's the whole point of why this business model for me is so selective, is that we're very careful on who we bring in, because if we can't deliver on what we promise, or we can't make it so that you guys are comfortable and happy and the stress is minimized, we're not doing our job. And I can't afford to take somebody through the process if I can't get that relationship to become a raving fan. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So before we get into the mortgage process, I just want to be clear. You guys are okay with the way we do business here. You understand that our business commitment to you guys is that we're going to deliver a process and a product that you're going to be willing to tell other people about, but you guys have to be willing to commit to us that you're going to follow the instructions that we ask you for, and you're going to be, and if we've earned it, you're going to go back to Richard and say thank you, and as well as advocate us to the people you care about. Is that fair?
Yeah.
That's my presentation. And then the loan officer stuff would take over. How is that presentation different than what you're saying to your clients in the beginning? Does it seem like I've framed myself to be different than what a normal loan officer would say? Have I elevated myself to be a very good consultant? Have I elevated my team model? Have I given you an image of why working with me is so much bigger than just the loan transaction?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that after hearing that if we delivered on what we promised, you would be more willing to refer us to the people you care about?
Oh, yes.
Every time I call you up and say thank you, you're going to be like, oh, Doug, thank you so much. I'm like, hey, remember what we talked about in the beginning? I'm counting on you guys because I don't want to have to go out there and talk to people I don't know and like. I'd rather talk to people you know and like because I know that they'll like me because they like you. And that's what they get. They laugh on the phone. They think it's fun, and they understand it. But the message behind it isn't nearly as effective if you don't set the stage in the beginning, because as you roll through the loan process, you create, even naturally, you create referable moments that you simply just pass by because you're either too busy or don't recognize them. So the thought process that I gave you over the last 2 weeks was really just start paying attention to these moments and learn how to capitalize on them. Mike, you said you reverted back to your old ways. Every time you fail to capitalize on those moments, it's so hard to go back and ask the client to remember you after you've hung up the phone or after you've done typed an email. It's those things that you have to be conditioned on. It has to be an automatic response that when you hear the word thank you, your response is, oh my God, thanks for noticing. And decide at that moment if that person is a good referable person or if you just want to close it down because I don't want business from them. I mean, there are people that I don't want business from. Let's be clear. I don't ask everybody for business because I don't want birds of a feather flock together. If I'm working with a 430 credit score, I'm not as likely to deliver the referable speech because I know that they know other people at 430 credit scores, and I don't want that. So it becomes something that you have to implement intentionally into your business conversations because you're missing out on a couple things that really change your business. If you got nothing but referrals every day and you didn't have to go out there and talk to people who didn't know you, like you, and trust you, but instead you had people calling you up going, Olivia, Michael, so-and-so referred me to you. Can you help me out? We're struggling with something. We're trying to buy a home. We're thinking about buying a home. You were referred to us by a good friend of ours. He said you were the best, or you did really good by them. Is that a different feeling when you get those calls compared to having to call up a realtor going, hey, my name is Olivia or Michael. I would love to meet with you because I feel like I'd be a good business partner for you. Can you spend 20 minutes to meet with me for coffee? And they're like, no, I don't have time. Call me after the first of the year. Oh, no, I'm busy. You're right. I don't like being rejected. I may be different than most people, but the act of being rejected by people who I don't really have a ton of respect for just makes it feel so dirty in my mind. Meaning it's not that I don't respect people, as professionals go, I don't think most realtors are very referable to begin with. And the idea of having to call on them to build a business with them kind of made me sick to my stomach. So I began to quickly realize that I connected with the consumer and financial planners and attorneys much better because I related differently. And so I began to realize that every time I met with a new client, whether they were going to use me or not, remember I said that in the beginning, I don't care if you use me as a loan officer or not. I'm not here to tell you I'm the best loan officer. I'm just telling you I'm the best person to talk to because I'm going to help you figure out the best plan because I want you at the very least to go back to the person who referred you and say thank you. Because if you get that, then that referral source, like Richard in this case, that relationship is amplified. Thus, he becomes more willing to continue to refer you. So you nurture that piece of your business, regardless if you get a loan out of the referral or not. It's doing what's right by people because the person who started the relationship is amplified and becomes more referable to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you look at your 2 transactions that you're closing, you've lost out on at least one referral, if not one closable deal, because you didn't set the stage. And so when you look at how hard it is to get the momentum going and how many times your clients have said thank you to you or how much they've appreciated you, I want you to go back and really ask yourself, if I set the stage differently, Could I have gotten a referral through the process? And I'm telling you this with 100% accuracy, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
That makes sense?
it does. Next time, I'm be more aware of it.
So my question to you guys is this. As you guys go out there and start originating and you start calling on realtors and you start doing the things that you have to put, to put food on the table or to bring business to your doorstep, ask yourself which is the easier, more, say, fun way to do it. Is it working with people that have already agreed to work with you because they know you, they like you, they trust you, or is it fun and easier to go out there and try to convince people that you're the right person for the job?
No, like trust.
Well,
Sure.
I've got some loan officers who really enjoy calling realtors. They like they like the jazz of it. I'm like, you're just sick in the head. I just couldn't do it. I mean, the idea of calling 30 realtors that hang up on you and put you to voicemail every single week it's a tough go. I've never done it. I do know a lot of people that have. There are people that have great success with it. But I think a lot of that has to do with what they say on the phone and how they are able to communicate, which we'll work through that. But I think one of the things that we have to understand is while we're building up that momentum, every client that comes across our desk is a chance to keep expanding our brand. And our brand isn't closing loans, guys. We're not about closing loans. We are relationship amplifiers. Our job is to get people to think about us because we think about them. And we care about what their image is. And if you help people improve their image, they're going to be loyal to you for decades. I promise. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Is this helping at all? I mean, are you guys feeling this at all, or am I just kind of off on like cloud nine?
No. It's making sense to me.
What do you hear me say, Olivia?
I really think setting the stage is probably one of the most important things you can do when you start talking to a client.
Before you talking about mortgages?
Correct. Before mortgages. Correct.
And why do you think setting the stage before you talk about loans is so vital?
Because I feel like if you set the stage, then I want to be referable. And like you said, I don't want to have to call agents. I hate that too. So if I can start setting the stage and, putting in their mind, yes, hey, I would like a referral, going through that process out of it, I think it would be so much easier, make the business so much easier.
Right. It makes it more, you make it more relationship-based.
Correct.
See, the entire presentation that I gave you was all about not what was in it for me. You didn't hear me say I. It wasn't about me. I was always talking about Richard, or I was talking about you. And therein lies the art of it. And it's not going to be easy in the beginning, but I've recorded this call, so you guys can go back and listen to the presentation. I can send you guys a couple other replays for people that have spent time, like I spent 45 minutes just on the presentation. I did one yesterday. Or we can keep going through this, because I think I think you're actually 100% accurate when you set the stage in the beginning. It not only helps define you to your clients, but it pulls you away from the commoditization of our business. Because what consumers and realtors think is that the only thing that makes you different is your rate, and you and I both know, or all three of us know, that our rate is not what defines us. Because truthfully, if there are 100 things that could go wrong, a person sitting on the end of a phone in a big bank or a service center could care less on whether or not they told you to get A, B, C, and D, and E. They've got probably 30 or 40 people in the pipeline, and if 15 of them don't close, which you could be one of them, they don't really care. They don't make enough money on your loan to care about you. So we know the secret behind what's behind the interest rates. The truth is that our consumers don't. And so whenever we sit down and we jump right into the loan process, we're putting ourselves on the same level as every other loan officer, when we all know that we're not like every other loan officer. Our branch isn't like every other branch. Our company isn't like any other company. And if you start believing that your value is more than just closing loans, then you'll begin to talk as if your value is more than just closing loans. And your consumer or your audience will see you as being more than that. And I'm telling you right now, we are so void in this industry of people who understand how relationships work, because we live in what's called an experiential economy. And if you guys have done any research, and I don't know if, I know Mike, you're kind of you're more of an analyst, right? Like you kind of understand that stuff.
Yeah, like the finance part.
Okay, so what we live in today's world is what's called an experiential economy. That means that because of the advent of the internet, everything has become leveled out. There's no one place that gets better product than anybody else. You literally can go around the globe and get the same product and find the best price in the world for it if you're simply buying a product. The problem is that buying a home is not a product, it's a process and an experience. Much the same way, like, look at some of the big names out there, like Coca-Cola. What is Coke putting on all their bottles nowadays?
Their
names. Names. People's names.
Oh yeah, that's right. Their names, yeah.
And what's their tag? Share a Coke with a friend. And what is sharing a Coke with a friend about? It's about sharing an experience. Beer companies, same thing. There's Budweiser USA or anything USA. They've got an experience campaign around. There's a town that they've built, and whatever Budweiser does, they do that over there. But everything is about tailoring it to people's perceptions. And people, because everything else has been leveled out, is looking for an experience that connects with them, because they want to work with somebody or something that believes in what they believe, that they believe that they care, that whoever they're working with cares about them. My presentation, though I've been doing it for 20 years, is all about making it about the results that they get and the people that they refer get. It's not about me. It's about an experience. Setting the stage is not about getting a loan. It's about creating an experience that people can relate to. That's my 2 cents, guys.
When you go over the scripts, we will get that in the audio, right?
I'm giving you. There are hundreds. They're not scripts for me. They're just the way that I communicate. And so I record all these calls because half the time that I speak, there's not really a word-for-word script that I read. It's really just it's a topic that I want to discuss. So like today's call, you can go back and replay these, and then if you want to pick this conversation up next week and go, can you really kind of break down how that whole presentation works, because I really want to get I really want to break it into bullet points so I know what to say. I will role play and work with you on that every week if that's what you guys want, because I honestly believe that if you learn how to set the stage appropriately and you're paying attention to when people say thank you during the process, and you can turn it around and say thanks for noticing, you begin to build a momentum that really creates the identity of I'm building a referable business, not because it accidentally happens, but because I'm creating the moments, I'm creating the conversations, and I'm not afraid to ask.
Okay.